Hello, dear friends and dog lovers. Today, we'll dive into a topic that could literally save your furry companion's life. Anyone who has ever looked into those faithful eyes has felt the desire to treat their dog to something delicious. And we often think, what harm could come from one tiny piece? However, nature has arranged things so that a dog's body works completely differently from a human's. What serves as a source of pleasure and nutrients for us can cause serious poisoning or even death for dogs. Statistics show that thousands of dogs are brought to veterinary clinics annually with poisoning caused by ordinary foods from our table. According to the American Association of Veterinary Clinics, food poisoning ranks third among all emergency visits by dog owners to veterinarians. And what's most sad is that in many cases, owners had no idea they were feeding their pet food that was dangerous for them. Most dog owners have already heard that chocolate is poison for their pets. Indeed, the theobromine it contains can cause serious poisoning, especially in small breeds. But today, we'll talk about 7 foods whose toxicity for dogs might come as a real surprise to you. We regularly consume these foods ourselves. Many of them are considered healthy for humans, but for our four-legged friends, they present a real danger. So, let's figure out which common foods can be deadly dangerous for dogs and why this happens. The first unexpected product that can harm your dog is grapes and raisins. These juicy berries and their dried version, which we're used to considering healthy treats, can cause acute kidney failure in dogs. History knows many tragic cases related to these seemingly harmless berries. In 2015, a 2-year-old Labrador was admitted to a London veterinary clinic after eating just a handful of grapes left on the table. Despite prompt help from veterinarians, the dog could not be saved. Its kidneys failed within 2 days. What's most surprising is that scientists still cannot precisely determine which substance in grapes causes poisoning. There are several theories. Some researchers believe it may be related to pesticides or fungi on the skin. Others think that some substance contained directly in the flesh of the berry is toxic. In 2021, a group of scientists from the University of California put forward a hypothesis that tartaric acid might be the culprit. But this theory requires further research. Another mystery is that the reaction to grapes can be absolutely unpredictable. One dog can eat a whole bunch without visible consequences, while for another, even 2 or 3 berries can be fatal. Susceptibility to poisoning does not depend on the age, sex, or breed of the dog. It's a kind of Russian roulette that's not worth playing with your pet's life. The toxic dose also varies, but veterinarians note that for an average dog, 10 to 15 grapes or a palm-sized handful of raisins can already be dangerous. For small breeds, this dose is even smaller. Symptoms of grape or raisin poisoning usually appear within 6 to 12 hours after consumption. They begin with vomiting. Often pieces of undigested berries can be seen in the vomit. Then, the dog loses appetite, becomes lethargic, and may develop diarrhea, sometimes with blood. The abdomen becomes painful when palpated. The dog starts drinking a lot but produces little urine or stops urinating altogether. This is a sign that the kidneys are ceasing to function. As kidney failure progresses, trembling, weakness, loss of coordination, coma develop, and ultimately, death may occur. If you notice that your dog has eaten grapes or raisins, don't wait for symptoms to appear. Seek veterinary help immediately. Within the first 2 hours, a specialist can induce vomiting to prevent the absorption of toxins. Delay could cost your pet's life. Interesting fact, some baked goods, especially sweet buns or muffins, may contain raisins. Therefore, before treating your dog to a piece of sweet pastry, carefully check its ingredients. The second dangerous product I'd like to tell you more about is avocado. This superfood, which health food enthusiasts love to add to their diet, can be a source of serious problems for dogs. It's all about a substance called persin, which is toxic to dogs. Persin is found in all parts of the avocado plant, in the leaves, bark, pit, and even in the flesh, although its concentration is lower in the latter. This substance is by nature a fungicide, that is, a natural antifungal compound that the plant produces for protection against external threats. For humans, persin is relatively safe, but in dogs, detoxification mechanisms work differently. Studies have shown that different varieties of avocado contain different amounts of persin. For example, the Hass variety contains more of this toxin than the Fuerte or bacon varieties. However, this doesn't mean you can give your dog avocados of certain varieties. Any avocado is potentially dangerous for four-legged pets. Persin can cause problems with the gastrointestinal tract in dogs, including vomiting and diarrhea. In more severe cases, damage to the myocardium, the heart muscle, is possible, which manifests in heart rhythm disturbances, pulmonary edema, and labored breathing. Small dog breeds and puppies are especially sensitive to persin. Besides the toxic effects of persin, avocado is dangerous for other reasons too. Its flesh contains a large amount of fat, which can cause pancreatitis in dogs, inflammation of the pancreas, which is accompanied by severe pain and can be life-threatening. Symptoms of pancreatitis include vomiting, abdominal pain, a hunched posture, refusal to eat, and fever. The avocado pit presents a danger not only because of its high persin content, but also because of its size and shape. It can get stuck in the dog's esophagus or intestines, causing an obstruction. If a dog has swallowed an avocado pit, seek veterinary help immediately, even if there are no visible symptoms of persin poisoning. A curious case occurred in California, where avocados are grown on an industrial scale. A farm owner noticed that his dog was constantly picking up fruits that had fallen from trees. After several days of such a diet, the dog developed severe myocarditis, requiring intensive therapy. Fortunately, the pet was saved, but since then, the farm area has been fenced in such a way that the dog has no access to avocado trees. So if you love guacamole or avocado toast, make sure your four-legged friend has no access to them. Even a small amount of this fruit can seriously harm your pet's health. Moving on to the third dangerous product, onions and garlic. All plants of the onion family, including onions, garlic, leeks, shallots, and wild garlic, contain sulfur compounds that can damage a dog's red blood cells, causing hemolytic anemia. The mechanism of toxic action is related to the fact that in dogs, unlike humans, erythrocytes, red blood cells, contain a special type of hemoglobin that is extremely sensitive to oxidative damage. Sulfur compounds contained in onion plants, namely N-propyl disulfide and allium compounds, cause oxidation of hemoglobin, leading to its denaturation and the formation of Heinz bodies, peculiar growths on the surface of erythrocytes. Such damaged cells cannot function normally and are quickly destroyed by the spleen, leading to anemia, a condition in which the body experiences a deficiency of erythrocytes and, consequently, oxygen starvation of tissues. Interestingly, this group of products is dangerous for dogs in any form: raw, boiled, fried, in powder form, or even as part of other dishes. Moreover, heat treatment does not destroy the toxic compounds, and in some cases may even increase their concentration. For example, onion powder, which is often added to ready-made sauces, bouillon cubes, and semi-finished products contains these compounds in an even more concentrated form. It's noteworthy that among onion plants, garlic is considered the most toxic. It's approximately 5 times more toxic than regular onions. This means that even one clove of garlic can cause serious poisoning in a small dog. Studies show that for a dog weighing 20 kilograms, a dangerous dose can be just 40 to 50 grams of onion or 5 to 10 grams of garlic. Onions are particularly insidious because symptoms of poisoning may not appear immediately, but several days after consumption, when the toxins have already caused significant damage to the body. The first signs of poisoning include apathy, weakness, and refusal to eat. Upon examination, you may notice paleness or jaundice of the mucous membranes and gums due to anemia and the release of bilirubin when erythrocytes are destroyed. Urine may darken due to the excretion of hemoglobin breakdown products. As anemia progresses, the dog develops rapid breathing and heartbeat. These are compensatory mechanisms aimed at providing tissues with oxygen in conditions of reduced erythrocyte count. In severe cases, fainting and even death are possible. Treatment for onion or garlic poisoning may include blood transfusions, antioxidants, oxygen therapy, and supportive care. The prognosis depends on the amount of product eaten, the time that passed before treatment began, and the overall health condition of the dog. Interestingly, sensitivity to onions and garlic may vary among different dog breeds. For example, Japanese breeds such as Akita Inu and Shiba Inu, as well as dogs of primitive breeds close to wolves, are more sensitive to the toxic effects of onion plants due to genetic characteristics of their erythrocytes. It's important to remember that dogs are much more sensitive to these products than humans. Even a small amount of onion in sauce, gravy, or pizza filling can harm your pet's health. Therefore, before treating your dog to leftovers from your dinner, carefully check the dish's composition for the presence of onions or garlic in any form. The fourth unexpected product on our list is xylitol. This name may be unfamiliar to many, but xylitol is a natural sugar substitute that is obtained from birch bark, corn cobs, and other plant materials. It is widely used in diet products, sugar-free chewing gums, toothpastes, baked goods, and even in some types of peanut butter and nut pastes. The popularity of xylitol is growing every year as it contains 40% fewer calories than regular sugar, has a low glycemic index, and doesn't cause cavities. For humans, xylitol is not only safe, but also beneficial. It helps prevent cavities, can reduce the risk of middle ear infections in children, and even promotes mineralization of tooth enamel. But for dogs, xylitol is deadly. The reason lies in fundamental differences in the metabolism of this substance in humans and dogs. In the human body, xylitol is slowly absorbed and doesn't cause insulin release. In dogs, however, it is rapidly absorbed into the bloodstream and stimulates the pancreas to secrete large amounts of insulin as if the dog had eaten real sugar. This leads to a sharp drop in blood glucose levels, a condition called hypoglycemia, which can develop rapidly, literally within 30 minutes after consuming a product with xylitol. Symptoms of hypoglycemia include vomiting, loss of coordination, weakness and lethargy, seizures, coma, and even death if urgent help is not provided. But the danger of xylitol is not limited to hypoglycemia. Unlike other sugar substitutes, xylitol can also cause acute liver failure in dogs, the mechanism of which is not fully understood. Symptoms of liver damage may appear several days after poisoning and include jaundice, yellowing of mucous membranes and skin, blood clotting disorders, bleeding, and elevated liver enzymes in the blood. And what's most frightening, even a small amount of xylitol can be fatal for a dog. The toxic dose is just 0.1 grams per kilogram of the dog's weight. For comparison, one piece of sugar-free chewing gum may contain from 0.3 to 0.5 grams of xylitol. This means that just one piece of chewing gum can cause serious poisoning in a dog weighing 5 to 6 kilograms. Statistics on xylitol poisoning in dogs are disappointing. According to the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, ASPCA, the number of cases of xylitol poisoning in dogs has increased more than 12-fold over the past decade, which is associated with the growing popularity of this sweetener in the food industry. An interesting case occurred in Portland, Oregon, where a 5-year-old golden retriever named Max found and ate a pack of sugar-free chewing gum containing xylitol. The owners noticed strange behavior in the dog. It became lethargic and moved uncertainly, and immediately took it to a veterinary clinic. A blood test showed critically low glucose levels, 1.2 millimoles per liter, with the norm being from 3.3 to 6.1. Thanks to the quick reaction of the owners and the work of veterinarians, the dog was saved, but treatment took several days and included intravenous glucose administration, liver protection, and supportive therapy. Therefore, be extremely careful with products containing xylitol. Store chewing gums, candies, and other products with this sweetener in a place inaccessible to your dog. And be sure to check the composition of peanut butter if you decide to treat your pet with it. Some manufacturers add xylitol to this product as a sweetener. The fifth dangerous product is raw dough with yeast. Many people love to bake bread, pizza, or buns at home. And while a piece of already baked bread usually doesn't pose a danger to a dog if it doesn't contain toxic additives, raw dough with yeast can cause serious health problems for your pet. When a dog swallows raw dough with yeast, it enters an ideal environment for fermentation, the warm, moist, and dark environment of the stomach. The dog's body temperature, which normally ranges from 38 to 39 degrees Celsius, creates optimal conditions for the activation of yeast fungi. They begin to multiply intensively and release carbon dioxide, the very gas that makes dough rise. As a result, the dough begins to increase in volume inside the dog's stomach, which can lead to stomach distension. Stomach distension is already a serious problem, causing discomfort, pain, and labored breathing due to pressure on the diaphragm. But even more dangerous is that the distended stomach can twist around its axis, leading to a condition called gastric torsion. This is a life-threatening condition requiring emergency surgical intervention. Gastric torsion in veterinary practice is considered one of the most dangerous conditions, with a mortality rate of up to 50% even with timely treatment. In this condition, the blood supply to the stomach and neighboring organs is disrupted, leading to tissue necrosis, endotoxic shock, and multiple organ failure. Without emergency surgery, death can occur within a few hours. But the danger of raw dough is not limited to mechanical distension of the stomach. During fermentation, yeast converts carbohydrates from the dough into ethanol, alcohol, and carbon dioxide. Ethanol is absorbed into the dog's bloodstream and causes alcohol poisoning, which is much more dangerous for dogs than for humans due to smaller body size and peculiarities of metabolism. Symptoms of alcohol poisoning in dogs include disorientation, agitation, or, conversely, lethargy, uncontrolled urination, rapid breathing and heartbeat, loss of coordination, hypothermia, decreased body temperature, and in severe cases, loss of consciousness, seizures, and respiratory center depression, which can lead to respiratory arrest and death. Small dog breeds are especially susceptible to alcohol poisoning, as well as dogs with liver diseases, since this organ is responsible for ethanol metabolism. A notable case occurred in Chicago, where an amateur baker left a large bowl of pizza dough to rise on the table while he went to the store. His Jack Russell Terrier took advantage of the moment and ate a significant portion of the dough. When the owner returned home, he found the dog with a noticeably bloated abdomen, barely moving and looking, in the owner's words, as if she had drunk the entire bar. At the veterinary clinic, the dog received emergency assistance, gastric lavage, administration of fluids to prevent dehydration, and medications that accelerate alcohol metabolism. Fortunately, the case ended well, as the owner quickly reacted to the unusual condition of his pet. So, if you bake bread or other pastries, make sure your dog has no access to raw dough. And of course, don't feed it dough leftovers intentionally, even if your pet begs for a piece. It's better to treat it with a special dog treat or a small piece of already baked bread without additives. The sixth unexpected product on our list is coffee, tea, and other beverages containing caffeine. Many people know about the harm of chocolate for dogs precisely because it contains theobromine, a substance that is very similar to caffeine in chemical structure. But not everyone realizes that caffeine itself is extremely toxic to dogs, even more so than theobromine. Caffeine belongs to the group of methylxanthines, natural compounds that have a stimulating effect on the central nervous system and cardiovascular system. In the human body, caffeine is rapidly metabolized and excreted, but in dogs this process occurs much more slowly. Because of this, even relatively small doses of caffeine can accumulate in a dog's body and reach toxic concentrations. The mechanism of caffeine action is related to its ability to block adenosine receptors, a neurotransmitter that causes drowsiness and relaxation. When caffeine blocks these receptors, the nervous system and heart work at increased rates. In addition, caffeine stimulates the release of hormones such as adrenaline and noradrenaline, which further enhances its exciting effect. Caffeine is contained not only in coffee and tea, but also in energy drinks, colas, some pain relievers, chocolate, and even in coffee beans in chocolate. The concentration of caffeine in different products can vary significantly. For example, a cup of strong espresso can contain from 60 to 100 milligrams of caffeine, a can of energy drink from 80 to 200 milligrams, and a cup of black tea from 40 to 70 milligrams. The toxic dose of caffeine for dogs is about 150 milligrams per kilogram of body weight, and the lethal dose is about 180 to 200 milligrams per kilogram. This means that for a dog weighing 5 kilograms, a potentially lethal dose could be just 750 milligrams of caffeine. That's about 2 cups of strong coffee or 1 can of energy drink with high caffeine content. Symptoms of caffeine poisoning usually appear within an hour after consumption and may include anxiety, hyperactivity, rapid breathing and heartbeat, tachycardia, arrhythmias, tremors, seizures, increased blood pressure, and body temperature. In severe cases, rhabdomyolysis, destruction of muscle tissue, heart failure, collapse, coma, and death are possible. Treatment for caffeine poisoning includes inducing vomiting, if no more than 2 hours have passed since consumption, using activated charcoal to prevent further absorption of the toxin, intravenous administration of fluids to accelerate the excretion of caffeine with urine, as well as symptomatic treatment, anticonvulsants for seizures, medications to normalize heart rhythm, and so on. Interesting fact, sensitivity to caffeine can vary significantly among different dogs. Some breeds, for example, Whippets and Greyhounds, are more sensitive to stimulants due to genetic peculiarities of metabolism. In addition, puppies, elderly dogs, and dogs with heart or liver diseases are at particular risk when poisoned with caffeine. An unusual case of caffeine poisoning was recorded in Melbourne, where a border collie named Rex found and tore open a package of coffee beans. The dog ate about 100 grams of coffee beans, which is equivalent to approximately 2.5 to 3 grams of pure caffeine. Rex developed severe seizures and tachycardia up to 220 beats per minute. Hospitalization in the intensive care unit of a veterinary clinic was required for 3 days, including the administration of anticonvulsant drugs and medications to stabilize heart rhythm. The dog survived, but it retained increased sensitivity to stress for several months after the incident. Don't leave cups of coffee or tea in a place accessible to your dog. Store coffee beans and tea in tightly closed containers. Don't give your dog energy drinks, even as a joke, and be careful with medications containing caffeine. Some headache remedies can contain a significant amount of this stimulant. And finally, the seventh dangerous product, certain nuts. While peanuts are usually safe for dogs, if they don't contain xylitol, salt, or other additives, some other nuts can pose a serious danger to our four-legged friends. Macadamia nuts are especially dangerous. These exotic nuts, valued for their delicate taste and high content of beneficial fats, are a strong neurotoxin for dogs. The mechanism of their toxic action has not been fully studied yet. There's a hypothesis that macadamia contains an unidentified compound that affects neuromuscular junctions and the central nervous system of dogs, but doesn't affect humans due to metabolic differences. Macadamia nuts can cause temporary paralysis of hind legs, tremors, fever, weakness, and joint pain in dogs. A characteristic sign of poisoning is that the hind limbs weaken and fail, while the front limbs remain functional, resulting in a peculiar gait. The dog may whine in pain when its joints or muscles are touched. Some dogs develop swelling of the limbs. Symptoms usually appear within 12 hours after consumption and can last up to 2 days. Although macadamia poisoning is rarely fatal, it causes serious suffering to the dog. The toxic dose is approximately 2.5 grams of nuts per kilogram of the dog's weight, which for a medium-sized dog is equivalent to about a handful of nuts. Treatment for macadamia. Nut poisoning includes supportive therapy, painkillers and anti-inflammatory drugs, intravenous administration of fluids, and in some cases, activated charcoal to bind toxins in the gastrointestinal tract. The prognosis is usually favorable, and most dogs fully recover within 48 hours. A notable case occurred in Australia, the country where most of the world's macadamia nuts are grown, when a Labrador dog ate half a cake with macadamia nut filling. Within 4 hours, the dog couldn't stand on its hind legs and made plaintive sounds when trying to move. Veterinarians had to administer strong painkillers and muscle relaxants to alleviate the animal's suffering. Fortunately, after 36 hours, all symptoms of poisoning disappeared without residual effects. Walnuts and pecans can also be dangerous for dogs, especially if they are moldy. Mold that develops on nuts with improper storage, for example, Penicillium or Aspergillus, produces mycotoxins, in particular tremorgenic mycotoxins, neurotoxins that can cause seizures, tremors, and other neurological symptoms in dogs. These toxins are resistant to high temperatures, so even heat treatment of moldy nuts doesn't make them safe. Tremorgenic mycotoxins block certain neurotransmitters in the dog's brain, leading to excitement, abnormal behavior, loss of coordination, and seizures. In severe cases, liver and kidney damage is possible. Treatment includes detoxification, anticonvulsant drugs, and supportive therapy. The prognosis depends on the amount of moldy nuts eaten and the time until treatment begins. Almonds, although not as toxic as macadamia, can cause digestive problems in dogs due to their high fat content. Fatty foods are difficult to digest by a dog's body and can lead to gastroenteritis, inflammation of the stomach and intestines, or pancreatitis, inflammation of the pancreas. Symptoms include vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal pain, refusal to eat, and increased thirst. Pancreatitis is especially dangerous, which can develop after a single intake of a large amount of fatty food. In pancreatitis, the pancreas begins to digest itself, which causes severe pain and can lead to irreversible damage to the organ. Treatment for pancreatitis is complex, lengthy, and not always successful. Some dogs, after suffering pancreatitis, need a lifelong special diet and medicinal support. Also remember that nuts are often sold salted, and excess salt is dangerous for dogs and can lead to sodium poisoning, which manifests in excessive thirst, increased urination, vomiting, diarrhea, tremors, and seizures. In severe cases, brain edema with loss of consciousness and fatal outcome is possible. Interesting fact: pistachios, although not considered acutely toxic to dogs, contain a large amount of fat and can be contaminated with aflatoxins, dangerous mycotoxins, if they are improperly stored. In addition, the hard shells of pistachios can cause mechanical intestinal obstruction if the dog swallows them. So, we have examined in detail 7 unexpected products that can pose a danger to your dog. But what should you do if your pet has still eaten something from the forbidden list? What actions should be taken first? First of all, don't panic. Panic prevents making rational decisions, and in the case of pet poisoning, every minute can count. Calmly assess the situation. What product was eaten? In what quantity? And when did it happen? Write down this information. It will be needed by the veterinarian to determine the degree of risk and choose the optimal treatment tactics. If less than 2 hours have passed since consumption, and there are no contraindications, seizures, loss of consciousness, labored breathing, the veterinarian may advise inducing vomiting in the dog to prevent toxin absorption. For this, the doctor may recommend giving the dog hydrogen peroxide in a certain dosage, usually 1 milliliter of 3% peroxide per kilogram of the dog's weight, but not more than 15 milliliters per dose. But never do this on your own without consulting a specialist. Some toxic substances can cause even more harm when passing back through the esophagus, for example, causing chemical burns. Never use salt, mustard, or other home remedies to induce vomiting in dogs, as they can be dangerous in themselves. It is also contraindicated to induce vomiting if the dog is unconscious, is experiencing seizures, has labored breathing, has swallowed a sharp object or a caustic substance, acid, alkali, or more than 2 hours have passed since the consumption of the toxin. After inducing vomiting, the veterinarian may recommend giving the dog activated charcoal to bind remaining toxins in the gastrointestinal tract. The dosage usually is 1 to 2 grams per kilogram of the dog's weight every 6 to 8 hours. Activated charcoal is not recommended for poisoning with some substances, in particular xylitol, so always consult with a veterinarian before using it. In any case, if poisoning is suspected, immediately contact a veterinarian or a 24-hour veterinary clinic. If possible, take a sample of the product that the dog ate or its packaging. This will help the veterinarian more accurately determine the nature of the poisoning and prescribe appropriate treatment. Delay can cost your pet's life. For example, with xylitol poisoning, time is literally of the essence. The earlier treatment is started, the higher the chances of a favorable outcome. In cases of liver or kidney damage, for example, after consuming grapes, early intensive therapy can prevent irreversible organ damage. Don't forget that many signs of poisoning in dogs can be nonspecific and resemble other diseases. For example, vomiting can be a symptom of many conditions, from banal indigestion to serious infections. Therefore, when describing your pet's condition to the veterinarian, try to be as accurate as possible and indicate all unusual symptoms, even if they seem insignificant. Now let's talk about how to prevent poisoning your dog with dangerous foods. After all, as is known, prevention is always more effective and cheaper than treatment, especially when it comes to the health of our four-legged friends. Here are some practical tips that will help protect your dog. First, store all potentially dangerous products in a place inaccessible to your dog. Remember that dogs can be surprisingly inventive when it comes to getting food. They are able to open cabinet doors, climb on tables and chairs, bite through packaging and containers. Many dog breeds, such as Beagles, Labradors, and Jack Russell Terriers, are known for their special love of food and ability to obtain it in the most incredible ways. Use special lockable containers for storing products that may be dangerous for your dog. Store medications, including vitamins and dietary supplements, with xylitol in closed cabinets or drawers. Never leave chocolate, grapes, avocados, and other dangerous products on tables or in other places accessible to your dog. You need to be especially careful with garbage bins. They often become a source of poisoning in dogs. Use trash cans with tightly closing lids or store them in places inaccessible to your dog, for example, under the sink with a closing door. Second, inform all family members, especially children, about which products are dangerous for your dog. Small children may not understand that they are sharing food that is harmful to the dog. Explain to the child that although the dog may ask for food or look hungry, some products can make it very sick. Tell guests about the rules for feeding your dog. Many people who don't have their own dogs are not aware of the dangers that common products pose. They might treat your pet to grapes or a chocolate candy without suspecting the possible consequences. Create a list of forbidden products and hang it in a visible place, for example, on the refrigerator door. This is especially useful if other people sometimes look after the dog, such as a nanny or relatives. Third, be especially careful during holidays when there may be a lot of unusual food in the house, as well as guests who may not know about the prohibitions. Christmas, New Year, birthdays, and other celebrations are a period of increased risk of poisoning in dogs. Statistics from veterinary clinics show that the number of visits for poisoning in dogs increases significantly during holiday periods. Before guests arrive, explain to them the rules regarding feeding your dog. During a festive feast, make sure that scraps don't fall on the floor where the dog can find them. Don't leave dishes with food unattended, especially if there are potentially dangerous products among them. Fourth, don't allow your dog to rummage through garbage. There may be remnants of dangerous products there. Many dogs love to explore trash bins, especially if there are food leftovers. However, in the trash, there may be not only chicken bones, which are dangerous in themselves due to the risk of intestinal perforation, but also moldy nuts, coffee grounds, tea bags, spoiled onions, or garlic, all of which are potentially toxic to dogs. Fifth, train your dog in commands like drop it or leave it, and practice them regularly. These commands can save your dog's life if it finds something dangerous during a walk or at home. Start training from puppy age. using positive reinforcement. The dog should understand that if it leaves a forbidden object or food, it will get something much more valuable from the owner. Sixth, at the slightest suspicion of poisoning, contact a veterinarian. It's better to be overcautious than to regret delay later. Remember that many poisonings don't manifest immediately, but after several hours or even days after consuming a toxic substance. If you notice unusual behavior in your dog, changes in appetite, vomiting, or diarrhea, don't write it off as a banal digestive upset. Consult with a veterinarian. And finally, have your veterinarian's contacts on hand, as well as the address and phone number of the nearest 24-hour veterinary clinic. In a critical situation, you won't have time to look for this information. Some owners even create a special emergency contact card, which they keep near the leash or in a special application on their phone. In conclusion, I'd like to say that caring for your dog's proper nutrition is an important part of responsible ownership. And it's not just about monitoring the quality and composition of dog food, but also about excluding potentially dangerous products from your pet's diet. Of course, sometimes you want to treat your four-legged friend to something tasty from our table, and you can do this. Just choose safe products. Chicken breast without spices and salt, carrots, apples without seeds, pieces of pumpkin, small amounts of low-fat cottage cheese or yogurt if the dog doesn't have lactose intolerance, boiled rice or pasta without salt and spices. There are many recipes for homemade treats for dogs that can be made from safe ingredients. For example, simple cookies made from oat flour, lean ground meat, and grated carrots. A delicious and healthy treat that any dog will appreciate. Or frozen cubes of yogurt with pieces of fruit, an excellent treat on a hot summer day. Remember that dogs are not little people. They have a different metabolism, different physiology, and what is beneficial for us can be deadly for them. Our digestive systems evolved differently, and although dogs became omnivorous in the process of domestication, their body is still unable to cope with some substances that are harmless to humans. Love for your pet is not shown by treating it to a forbidden delicacy, but by providing it with a healthy and safe life. Your dog won't be offended if you don't share your chocolate or grapes with it. It will be happy to get a safe treat and your love and attention. Thank you for your attention. I hope this information will help you better care for your four-legged friend and protect it from dangerous products that may be encountered in everyday life. Take care of your pets, and they will repay you with boundless love and devotion. If you liked the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to receive new useful tips on pet care. I would also love to see your comments. Perhaps you have your own experience that you would like to share, or questions about dog nutrition. Until next time.